That Gen Zs I've met are amazing, tech savvy, they're solutioning, they're creating AI software tools that I'm thinking I only have the best opinion of this generation.
Obviously, we know everything is going digital. Brands nowadays are going less towards traditional media.
Yeah.
Everything now needs to be so different and needs to stand out. And so what I'm noticing lately in terms of digital trends is the simplicity of it all. No one is going all out anymore. No one is being as extravagant as before.
Yeah.
It's all about subtle, kind of abstract digital marketing. And I think that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Gone are the bells and whistles. Now it's just simplicity and minimalism.
Yeah.
Brands are picking people who might not necessarily fit the brand, but because they have a lot of followers,
Yeah.
slap that product there, even though it's not that authentic to that influencer. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And he talked about AI and how we shouldn't be afraid of AI. We shouldn't be afraid that it's going to take our jobs.
Yeah.
It's just here to assist us. I think a lot of people think Gen Z are soft. When you look at jobs these days, the pool of Gen Zs is getting bigger, but the pool of jobs is not getting bigger.
Yeah.
So Gen Z are forced to create their own opportunities. We're reaching a point where a smartphone and internet is absolutely essential. And not everyone can afford that. If you look at the digital penetration, it's not as huge as you would need it to be, but then we have companies coming out with almost 5G, 6G internet, but who are going to be the consumers if they're not even able to have smartphones? Of creating experiences for yourself.
You're not the market.
So many influencers now, you look through their pages and it's just ads. It's not authentic content anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet to another episode of the podcast on Uganda. And today we have a patriot, a young, vibrant patriot who is on the podcast today to share her insights. But before we get into the podcast, I want to tell you a story about when I was in Florida. My sister ran a company called Enterprise, and she was in charge of over 260 people, different drivers and managers. And she was in her early 20s? And I thought, this is so cool. Imagine a Ugandan young, vibrant lady just telling these Americans what to do. And this is what I think about when I see our guest today, Miss Tracy Ikopit. I've had the privilege to work with her on 2 projects, and she has been brilliant, very efficient. And I know the talk around Gen Zs in Kampala is not that brilliant. You know, some people have said Gen Zs are so many things. I will not say any of those because I don't believe in them. That Gen Zs I've met are amazing, tech savvy, they're solutioning, they're creating AI software tools that I'm thinking I only have the best opinion of this generation. But welcome to the podcast, Miss Tracy. So Tracy is a brand strategist. She's a media practitioner. She is also, above all, a very most sought after digital strategist. So welcome to the podcast. We're very honored that you met this time.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. When you asked me, I just couldn't believe it. I said, wow, I'm going to be on this podcast. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're the perfect fit to the podcast because the Patriots are young people looking to do some changes in Uganda in turn to achieve that middle class economy that all of us are aspiring towards.
Absolutely.
Now I wonder what young people are talking about digital, especially you as a strategist. What trends are you noticing at the moment that you're paying close attention to, because you are very pivotal towards the launch of Next Creator, but also the Next Influencer, all those brands. You're going to tell us more about them.
Right.
And we're happy to learn from you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Obviously, we know everything is going digital. Brands nowadays are going less towards traditional media.
Yeah.
Everything now needs to be so different and needs to stand out. And so what I'm noticing lately in terms of digital trends is the simplicity of it all. No one is going all out anymore. No one is being as extravagant as before.
Yeah.
It's all about subtle, kind of abstract digital marketing. And I think that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Gone are the bells and whistles. Now it's just simplicity and minimalism.
Yeah. What
which
does
is
that
really
look
cool.
like?
What does it look like?
Yeah.
I think it means, for instance, meme culture.
Yeah.
That's how a lot of brands are kind of like launching things. If you see like how Nike even does their marketing, it's very simplistic, nothing over the top. And I find that so interesting. Obviously in Uganda it's a bit different, but like just global digital marketing trends, that's what I'm seeing.
And in Uganda?
In Uganda, what I'm seeing is people obviously taking up podcasts a bit more, taking advantage of digital real estate. I don't know if you've seen a couple of podcasts people have been using to promote brands.
Yeah.
They actually do, like a squeeze back on TV.
Yes.
I've been seeing them do digital real estate with their content, but put like a little squeeze back in there. So the company is paying not to be in your content, but for your digital real estate, which I think is really cool. I'm seeing the rise of skits digitally, but they need to be very creative.
That is true.
Yeah. And also influencing. Obviously, we see a lot of influencers. We'll get there eventually, but what I'm seeing right now is kind of like brands are picking people who might not necessarily fit the brand, but because they have a lot of followers, slap that product there, even though it's not that authentic to that influencer. That makes sense. But slowly but surely, we're getting there. We're going to catch up eventually.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the fact that you talked about creativity, because I feel like at the end of the day, regardless of how much content you have access to, a lot of these eyeballs also want a bit of creativity.
Absolutely.
And then the brands who are reaching out to influencers, at the end of the day, will also want to be very authentic to those creators who are very particular and creative in their niches.
Yeah.
So I was speaking to someone in my 9-to-5 that, would you rather an influencer or a content creator who is from that niche? Because at the end of the day, you also want that creativity to come out within the message you're trying to portray.
Absolutely.
Which is great. So do you think with today's digital ecosystem, it's working well with your generation, the Gen Z?
Digital ecosystem?
Yeah.
I think so. Naturally, Gen Z are digital natives.
Yeah.
That's what we do. It's our job to be on digital. Instead of finding ways to work harder, we're trying to work smarter.
Yes.
And that's all digital. So making things easier. For instance, there's this AI note taker.
Yeah.
I don't need to write things down. I don't need to type or prompt or anything. I just need to put it down and just talk and give my ideas, and it'll put it all together for me. Instead of having to sit there and write. No.
Yeah. Gone are the days where you have to send minutes after a meeting and it takes you 3 days.
When you can do it after an hour.
After an hour, or even the minutes,
Absolutely.
I sit on a board for a condominium, but these people are quite much older than I am. So the secretary was saying, oh, I need to take the notes. I'm like, you can just record this call and it will take notes for us that we're able to submit the minutes after. And she didn't know about this. I'm like, oh my God.
It's crazy. My dad actually does the executive training. So we went for one of his education things, and one of his trainings is on boosting productivity.
Yeah.
And he talked about AI and how we shouldn't be afraid of AI. We shouldn't be afraid that it's going to take our jobs.
Yeah.
It's just here to assist us. And the thing with AI is you also need to be really clever in the way that you use it. And they enter another job, prompt engineering.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Prompt engineering, just even to be able to answer questions your prospect clients would have before they even ask the questions. It's amazing. Today I wrote a post about how much time I've been able to free up with all these tools. Before, I kept asking myself, oh my God, I don't have time. I need more time. I need more hours in my 24.
Yeah.
But today, I can see the future that I'm going to have time to myself, even working 4 hours a week. No, 4 days a week.
Yeah.
That we're not in the 9-to-5 anymore, or 7 days a week for entrepreneurs. So I'm really excited about that. And what do you think the future looks like? Just for digital?
I think more tools are going to come out to make our lives even easier. Lately, it's been a trend of convenience, things that make our lives easier, that make our work easier, so that we don't have to toil as much. Although I wonder how that's going to affect us in the long run. Now, are we going to be more reliant? And what does that mean for us mentally? Or even spiritually? What does that mean?
I think it's quite freeing, you're having freedom, but then at some point it scares you.
Yeah.
But then because we don't know it yet, you think, let's leverage it. If you can clear up more days to spend some time with your parents or your friends, why not do it?
So I think it's great, and I'm excited for the future. I can't wait to see what amazing new contraptions are going to be created. I can't wait to see what the future of social media. One thing I've noticed is that even with social media, it's not even just about being social, it's about content media. If you look at platforms like TikTok, it's all about consuming content as opposed to being social
Yes,
on that platform.
yes.
But what they're trying to do also is incorporate series into
Yeah,
it. And if you
yeah.
see what Netflix is also doing, it's trying to incorporate like a TikTok-like feature into Netflix. So I think we're also going to see the rise of mega apps, like all these apps trying to be like one-stop shops. Instead of you now leaving TikTok to go to
Yes,
Netflix or leaving Netflix to go to
yes.
TikTok, how about you have it all in one place? So I definitely think we're going to see the rise of that moving forward.
Amazing. I like how eloquent she is for her age. And all those naysayers about your generation, what are the misconceptions they have? And you should change that now.
I think a lot of people think Gen Z are soft. Let me first explain where I am because I'm kind of on the cusp.
Yeah.
I'm around the first batch of Gen Z. So I have the Gen Z experience, but I also have some millennial experience. So I'm like, think of me as a zillennial, somewhere in between.
Is that you who coined this?
No,
Yeah.
it's a thing.
I didn't know that.
It's a thing. You could call me a zillennial.
Yeah.
So I was there when like the first, not the first computer, I don't say, but when the internet was like becoming a thing, we were like playing video games and stuff. I slowly watched the transition from like button phones into smartphones, then, the rise of social media and stuff like that. I was there for all of that. So I think a lot of the misconceptions when it comes to Gen Z is that they're lazy, entitled, they're kind of like scatterbrained.
Yeah.
They don't have no ambition. They're bad-mannered. I don't know where it comes from.
I don't know any of those, honestly.
I think a lot of it comes from generations before us. Maybe had to struggle and toil a lot more than we've had to. So I think it's a thing of Gen Z want to work harder instead of working smarter. And generations before praised working hard, praised, being a workaholic and coming home at odd hours because you're working so hard. Whereas Gen Z is coming up with solutions. When you look at jobs these days, the pool of Gen Zs is getting bigger, but the pool of jobs is not getting bigger. So Gen Z are forced to create their own opportunities. And now in the digital wave, every day you see like a new boutique that's advertising on TikTok, advertising on Instagram, using WhatsApp. They're doing what they can. And success is going to look different for them than it did for the generations before that. And I think obviously seeing a different generation maybe going down a path that's not traditional, I think a lot of people look at that and they kind of don't believe in it. But I think Gen Z are a force on their own and they are making that difference.
Absolutely. We had a guest on here who shared that. So he broke down the different generations and said Gen Z would be those tech innovators solutioning around the problems that we are having now.
Absolutely.
So if someone is on their phone, don't think they're on WhatsApp. They're probably figuring out some software to solve our traffic lights or our potholes. Not potholes. Our drainage system. I mean, think about the problems we have today. But that's why I'm so excited about like AI or all these AI-powered solutions that can make like systems or software that can solution around the problems we're having today.
Absolutely.
I'm really so excited for the future in that sense.
Yeah.
So there's a listener now who is young. They're working a 9-to-5 job. You've had the privilege of leading large teams, like I mentioned at the start. And it's just amazing to see how you've handled. I've done 2 projects with you and you've always been on top of things, very efficient. And I couldn't applaud you even more. But tell that patriot who is listening and they're still figuring themselves out and you've seen the loophole because you're at the cusp of the Gen Z and millennial, like you mentioned. But they are one of those that are tarnishing or are representing that tarnished generation of the Gen Zs. What would you encourage them to divert from that negative connotation?
I think more than anything, to be honest, I don't even think of it like as a Gen Z thing. I think of it as a personal thing, your personality, who you are, what your values are, what you stand on. And for me, it's always been a thing of never diverting from that. A lot of it also has to do with how you were raised. I think my parents did a great job. If I do say so myself, with my siblings and I. And I think a lot of it also has to do with my faith. I don't want to lie to you. So just moving in that and not allowing the noise to get to you, because there are going to be people who have these assumptions of you just because you're young. Maybe you're doing what they couldn't do at your age back in the day. So I think it's also just realizing where you are. You're in the workplace, you're doing this job, but you came here by yourself. And at the end of the day, this noise doesn't matter and it's not going to get you anywhere. You need to work well so that your work speaks for itself. But you need to own your work and you need to be proud about it. And you need to document it.
Yes.
Documentation. I'm telling you, it's everything, because when it's documented, no one can pretend they didn't see it or they don't know that it exists. And people will know that this is you and they will attach your name to efficiency, to high productivity, to excellence.
Yeah.
And those need to be the pillars on which you build your career.
Yeah. Because you've been a leader quite young. Has someone undermined you just because you're young, do you think?
Oh, because I'm young, I'm a woman, I have an accent, I'm what they would call a planned kid.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In the office space, definitely. Okay, in South Africa, I didn't feel that, but here I did. Obviously, it felt there was a lot of proving myself that needed to happen. You know, I needed people to believe that I was here because I worked for it. I've worked for everything that I have. There was a lot of proving myself. I've definitely been undermined. Everyone just looks at me, oh, this kid, you know? But at the end of the day, the results spoke for themselves. And no one could refute that. You know, I was actually putting in the work and I was doing what needed to be done. So definitely, people undermined me. A lot of people despised me for the things I was able to do. And because things for me changed very quickly, and a lot of people may not have been happy with that. But you know what? I don't care.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when God's favor is on you, it doesn't matter. In the Bible, it says that He'll prepare a table for you amongst your adversaries. So it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There will always be Pharisees. There are always going to be people who want to step on you and say, oh, it's just because she's young. Oh, it's just because she's pretty. Oh, it's just because she has an accent. There are always going to be people who do that. You just have to keep on your journey and keep moving on, because you came there by yourself, and what they have to say, it doesn't matter.
Oh, I love it because you're proud about your faith, you're proud about your value system, your parents. I love that, and we'll speak about that much later. But it's nice to see, because then you know who you are.
Yeah.
You will not be mistaken for someone else because you know who you are.
Exactly.
And you point it straight to them that, hey, look, this is what I stand for and this is what I don't. So it's nice. So now, if you had the opportunity to sit in a room full of gray-haired men or just old men in suits, what would you advise them, or how would you advise them to tap into this young generation? Because you've said how much they're thinkers, they're creators, they're doing things around, solutioning around our problems, but also the way they're working, more smarter than hard workers. Defend this generation, but also show them where the opportunity is.
Absolutely. Those are mostly like the Gen X's, which is my parents' generation, I think. Yeah. I actually love dealing with them because they're so kind of interested in young people, and they're willing to explore that a little bit more than millennials are. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
because we haven't reached there yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah, obviously some of them are still rigid, but I think what I would say to them is that young people literally are the future. And at the end of the day, they might not have as much, you know, of a wealth of experience and knowledge that these older people do, but they have the innovative spirit. Their minds are more open, you know, they're more willing to take risks, and they've come with that youthful energy. And I think the two working together is a match made in heaven. You have the experience and that wisdom that comes with age, but then you also have that youthful curiosity, the risk-taking. So bringing those together is the best opportunity, and it's the best thing you can do for your organization. And I really believe in multi-generational organization and us relying on each other's strengths as opposed to picking out the weaknesses and focusing on that. A Gen Z might not want to be in office all the time, but you can see that they're working. And I think it's a thing of output as opposed to seeing that I'm here working a 9 to 5, because I can be here every day doing nothing.
Yes.
But I could be working somewhere else in a more flexible way, and my output is like 10 times more than being here. Also, the thing of like meetings all the time, long meetings, argue, that don't make sense.
No.
We need to have short and effective meetings. Everyone knows what the agenda is. We hit those points and we know exactly what our action points are afterwards, and we can follow up to that effect. As opposed to now we're sitting here discussing what, we go off on tangents. No. Short, effective, because also attention spans. A lot of these social media platforms and things that we do are contributing towards shorter attention spans. So how can we also make things shorter so that we can also go and work faster to make sure that you get that desired output? You know, allowing them the space to work flexibly, to think creatively and to just try. And if it doesn't work, you can still get it together and try something else.
Yeah.
That kind of rigidity is what is almost stifling for the Gen Z. So I think us listening to each other,
Yes.
having a conversation, because things have changed and they're going to keep changing.
Yes.
You think Gen Z are bad, wait for Gen Alpha. They're already doing crazy things.
You said that, but I love also my Gen Alphas. My nieces and nephews are always calling out their parents. Mama, don't do that. I don't do that.
Yeah.
So good luck to them, but yes, today's topic is about the Gen Zs. I like that you emphasize the efficiency of Gen Zs, and which the older generations lack. I think it's also up to us to create an ecosystem that empowers or just nurtures the young generation to also operate in that system. For example, like you say, they don't have to be at their desk, but they could be working on their computer, on their commute to home or to wherever.
And I think we saw that even during COVID. People were working remotely and things were still moving.
They were being productive.
You know? So obviously, organizations do not need to change for Gen Zs. But there is a way we can kind of meet in the middle. I can give you your results if you allow me to work in this way. Let me try it for 2 months. If it doesn't work, I will come and be in office every day. Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there a risk that you've taken as a young person that you thought probably could have backfired, but it paid off?
Oh, I think it was the first time I presented to Exco.
Okay.
Whoa, I think I was 25.
Okay.
And I had never done a presentation at that level ever in my life.
Tell us what Exco is, because some people may think, what is she talking about?
Exco is the executive committee of the company. So think your top managers, C-suite, that kind of level. Yeah. So the CEO was also in that meeting. Obviously, you see these people around, but you don't really talk.
Something different.
You know? So I remember I was so nervous. I was downstairs with the team members and I almost cried. I was like, guys, let's pray. I prayed. And before I entered that boardroom, I prayed. And it went so well. They all clapped for me after the fact. I said, what?
Yes.
I could not believe it. They loved everything that I presented. And because I started off my presentation, I was like, okay, guys, well, the energy in here is whack. So stand up and let's stretch. Let's laugh, you know, get the blood flowing, get the good vibes rolling. I mean, and they loved it. They were all giggling and they were happy. And then we got into the presentation and it went really well.
I love it. It goes to show, because there'll be some people who even start tarnishing. I remember we had a webinar on the topic, still working with Gen Zs. And even before the webinar started, someone was already saying, Gen Zs, none of them is going to say anything important. I'm like, you didn't even give anybody a chance, right? Right? But I love that atmosphere in that room, because they were willing to learn, but also I saw a post, I think by your dad or your uncle, who you did invite them to Next Media, but then they were honored, but also appreciated the reverse mentoring, that it's not just them mentoring to you, but they loved the insights they can also pick from you.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of a give and take type of situation. Much as us, the Gen Z, we want all of these things, but we also need to understand that maybe the older generations are not in position to give us that just as yet. So how do we also try to meet them halfway? There needs to be compromise on both sides. And once there is, I think that's a great place to start. And what I love about the workplace where I am is that our CEO loves young people and he believes in the power of young people. And so he will always give us that chance. But I know not a lot of people are lucky to have that in their organization. I'm grateful that I've had this opportunity, and I hope that more CEOs will allow for young people to just be themselves and allow for them to positively contribute to their organization just by being themselves and being creative and being innovative.
Yeah. Do you think how expressive or how different your generation is also partly due to the education system you received? Also think your Uganda peers.
Yeah. Ugandan schools are very traditional. And so you'd think Gen Zs would be more traditional in that way, but not
all.
Not all of them. No, I think it's the expressiveness and wanting to say how you feel and share your opinion. It's an effect of maybe the shows we consume, the social media, the content that we consume. What's the term for it? Hegemony.
Hegemony means like a powerful country.
Yes, like the global north. Yeah, and then that kind of effects that it has on the global south. They say we're more westernized, we have more of that kind of influence.
The sort of content you consume.
Yeah, because we see other people behaving this way. I think it's even something that is subconscious, that you're not even aware of it, that you start to behave in that way as well. If you go around, how many girls do you see saying, clock it?
Yeah.
And that's a trend that started in the global north that has come global south. Even in the way that we dress, the music that we listen to, a lot of that is fueled by trends that we see on social media. So the education system, I don't know. Maybe I don't really know what it's like in Uganda. From what I know about the schools being very traditional, I think it's more to do with like social media.
Yeah. Or maybe also the parents, the Gen Xers, the millennials who are more intentional, more hands-on than the parents who sent their kids to boarding school. I always say, I'm not against that. But I think now you have more attention to pay to your children and you're asking them to speak up more and speak louder. And,
that too, because a lot of parents don't want their kids to go through what they went through when they were younger. And so they try to course correct with their children.
My mom always says she wants to she just doesn't want to be our mom, but she wants to be the best friend, to know everything, and so she can be a part of your world. Yeah, it's nice to see now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I think this generation honestly has a lot to offer, and if we do offer them, I mean, the patriots are younger people, so they do understand it, but for the people who are out there and are still lost, I think they should be forthcoming. Let them understand or meet you halfway and see how to work together, see how your strengths can work together as opposed to tearing you guys apart.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have some very interesting questions around achieving middle class economy. But before we do that, you have worked in this communication ecosystem for a while. You did have a stint at an agency back in South Africa. I don't know how you see communications thriving, especially in the digital era. You told us a bit about your future, what you think the future looks like. But if there were a policymaker listening, what are the challenges you think communicators, strategists working in Uganda are facing at the moment? What are those bottlenecks and what would you advise them to do? And if you didn't, because we've had people here telling us, well, that's not how it works. If you had the magic wand and knowing how it works, if you could change something, what would you immediately change?
I think a struggle that communicators or strategists may have is everything going digital. Much as we use that to our advantage, things can also kind of work against us. You might think of, oh, this amazing campaign. You think it's amazing. Everyone around you thinks it's amazing. And then you launch it and then it just has the negative effect because as you say, like people are very expressive online. Anyone can say anything. So I think obviously having those types of things is one of the challenges that communicators face. But also maybe clients not even understanding the importance of going digital now, not understanding why your PR strategy needs to have a digital element to it. You need crisis management for digital specifically because it might not land the right way. I think that's one of the major challenges that I've seen so far is clients just not understanding why things need to actually be done in a specific way. To a policymaker that's watching, I think I would say, allow for that creativity. Maybe even the policymaker, you doing PR for yourself or for your own company, allow for that creativity. Sometimes the backlash might even be worth it. Sometimes. If you have your strategies in place, you already have your crisis management, you're anticipating it, it's okay to let people say some things, then you come in with your crisis management, which makes it make even more sense. We were working on a campaign for one of those organizations and they were so afraid of the backlash and they didn't want that kind of backlash on them, but that we were like, look, it's necessary so that you can come out and correct it. So not being afraid of that and just allowing it to happen, but then also, this next one I don't want to say it, I'm going to be in trouble. No. The internet is important. You know, it's a lot of people's bread and butter. And because now, like the Gen Z, they're digital natives, they push their businesses online. If we're not seeing them online, they're not making money. People are not going to go downtown just to look as much anymore. Everything is now digital. So maybe making the price of data a little bit cheaper, the taxes on like smartphones and stuff. Because we're reaching a point where a smartphone and internet is absolutely essential. And not everyone can afford that. If you look at the digital penetration, it's not as huge as you would need it to be, but then we have companies coming out with almost 5G, 6G internet, but who are going to be the consumers if they're not even able to have smartphones?
You know what they say? There's the stats around the digital consumers or the internet consumers in Uganda. 70% of them are young people.
Yeah.
And then you think, okay, phones are cheaper now. There's internet access, but this is really people in the suburbs or the metropolitans of these cities. But if you think all the way in the rural areas where the populations are higher, then you wonder, how is it like? But then the internet also is more stable, I feel. The more you travel, the more you're able to communicate as opposed to how it was back in the day.
Yeah, of course. We've moved in leaps and bounds, absolutely. But moving forward, I think that would be something that's key to look at.
Yeah.
They'll kill me.
No, they won't. They won't kill you. Especially in a country where our own president once said, no, I don't do PR. But because there's a misconception around so many of these disciplines, PR, sales, marketing, I don't do PR because I'm who I am. But at the end of the day, you think, okay, PR is meant to highlight the good things you're already doing. It's not just brushing off or lying about the things you haven't done, greenwashing.
Absolutely.
But it goes without saying. Okay, so we have the fun part. The fun part of this conversation. And we have a rapid fire question where we ask every guest on this podcast 3 things that come top of your mind. What are those things we're doing today as communicators or as Ugandans that we need to continue doing because it will lead us into the middle class economy, what the podcast is about.
Absolutely.
Then the second is, what are those things we're doing today that we need to stop because they won't take us anywhere? So some of them you already alluded to, but you can easily point them out now.
Sure.
So number 1, what are those things we're doing we need to continue to do because they'll take us into a thriving middle class economy?
Content marketing. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's good to see how we're moving from still marketing, like still imagery, into content marketing, where someone is actually able to explain what it is that they're doing. You're able to see it in action. I think the rise of content marketing is amazing, and I hope to see it grow even more and people create effective content marketing strategies to better help their businesses thrive and get that money. Yeah.
Wait, a lot of patriots ask, how do I make that money? What they were talking about?
Yeah, content marketing.
Get content right.
Absolutely.
The second?
Experiential. Ooh, they might not remember what you did, but they'll always remember like how they felt experiencing your product. So I love what people are doing when it comes to curating these experiences for people, because going out and having the same experience every time, it gets boring. Yeah. You need something new. So I love to see when people curate these different experiences and like do really great with it when it comes to experiential marketing. Giving people something new. I really love what TikTok does when they create these TikTok labs kind of with influencers and stuff. Yeah. You get to go and experience this whole thing. I think it's amazing.
Augmented reality.
Yeah. Things like that. I think all this stuff is really cool. People need to keep doing that kind of marketing. Yeah. Let me just call it out-of-home experiences. Okay. It's out-of-home marketing, but like when it comes to experiences, but then also the advertising, really creative. Like I see these digital screens everywhere. I think they're absolutely incredible.
Yeah. The third?
The third one that we need to keep doing.
Get us into the middle class economy. It can be your generation.
Our generation. Work smarter. You don't need to always look like super busy or have like 5 things on your desk at once. There are ways to handle your tasks so that you don't get overwhelmed. Embrace technology. I love how we're embracing technology, embracing AI, and just embracing things that can make it easier for us to work more efficiently and achieve more in a much shorter time instead of dying on the hill of that one presentation that is taking you 7 hours to work on because you put every element there on PowerPoint. Make things easier for yourself.
She said her generation, they work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
Take a leaf. So what are those things we need to stop doing now because they're not taking us anywhere?
Yeah, I think when you're marketing to a specific audience, or you're trying to communicate to a specific audience, you also need to understand that that might not be you. Stop creating experiences for yourself.
You're not the market.
Exactly. Start thinking in the shoes of that person that you're trying to get to. Having that persona and properly defining who you want to target and how you want to target them is very important.
Wonderful.
Another thing we need to stop doing is poorly prompting AI. AI is very much garbage in, garbage out. If your prompt is less than 100 words, it's not going to work. No. It's not going to work. It's going to give you what you need. And it's important for us to rely on AI, but rely on it with sense. If you prompt nonsense, it'll give you nonsense. And you can't think that AI is not going to make mistakes. Well, what we need to stop doing is thinking that AI is going to course correct, because it won't. You need to go through it. You need to actually use your brain. You need that human element of thought when it comes to AI.
Someone said you need to exercise your brain because it's a muscle.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we might become cabbage in the future or a vegetable in the future.
Exactly. The third one is we're doing influencer marketing a bit wrong sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes we are reaching out to influencers just because of the eyeballs. We're not looking at the actual engagement, which in turn will be turned into conversions. We're not looking at that.
Short-sighted, huh?
Exactly. We're being very myopic when it comes to influencers. We just want the eyeballs, but that's not what's going to help. What is this person's engagement rate? What is their credibility score? Are they actually brand safe? A lot of companies don't think about that when it comes to the influencers that they choose. So also, is the product that you're trying to push through them authentic to them? Is it going to look so much like an ad? So many influencers now, you look through their pages and it's just ads. It's not authentic content anymore. So how can you use creators that speak more to your brand and are going to give you the results that you wish to see?
I think creators are more niche and focused on that one message you want to bring out, as to the influencers who easily pick up the next paycheck.
Absolutely.
But are not true to the message. All right. And then what does patriotism mean to you? So the patriot who is listening now, what does it mean to you to be a patriot? Because I feel as a patriot, we need to pay our taxes. We need to do the things we want to see Uganda become. Every time you're driving on the streets, at least one day, you'll see someone throw out their trash on the streets. And then you'll think, okay, we have floods, our drainage system is blocked because of some of our human interactions. But what does that mean to you in practical terms?
To me, I think being a patriot is just loving your country. And no one is going to love it more than you, the person who is in it, who was born and bred in this country. I think it's doing what we can in our power to make sure that our country is beautiful and that it's preserved in every way.
Those practical things, what do they need to do?
Firstly, reduce, reuse, recycle. I really believe in that. A little goes a long way. If you see someone doing something bad, tell them, hey, pick up your litter. The bin is right there. Or keep it until you can actually throw it away at home or something. Using plastic bags, I always reuse, those clothy bags. I keep them in my car and I always use them. Small things like that can actually make a difference. Having a water dispenser and filling up your water bottle instead of always having bottles, not throwing them away properly. But also, I believe that you speaking like positively is also a good thing, because the power of life and death lies in the tongue. And you have to speak well of your country. This is where God put you for a reason. This is where you come from for a reason. You need to be proud of it. Let people know that, hey, I love my country. I love where I'm from. Things might not be the best, but I love my homeland at the end of the day.
It's wonderful to see how much you have faith in your God. You've said it so many times on the podcast, which is nice to see. But where do you get that confidence to know that He's actually doing all the things that you're saying? How do you know?
Because I've lived it. My entire life is a testimony of God's goodness. I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't been for Him. I've been through some things in my life that I've had nothing to do but rely on God, and each time He has come through. God is not a man that He should lie. His word is true, and you need to stand on His promises. Even when you're praying for it and you're asking for it, you first need to believe that you have received it. And then all these things will come to you. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. And so I also thank my parents for raising me as a Christian, because if I didn't have that, I don't know what I would be.
Ghetto.
The actual ghetto. What would there be to believe in? Because I also just seeing it for myself. Obviously, there's being raised in it and whatnot, but also just experiencing it myself and going through that and actually watch God move in my life. It's a feeling you can't explain.
Oh, I'm so happy for you, because it looks very beautiful on you. Also, the way you explain it. So I'm really glad you made time for this conversation about achieving a middle-class economy. You're on leave today. We won't say she left work, but she still made time to come talk to us, the Patriots. If someone liked something you talked about, where do they follow up?
You can catch me on Instagram at Tracy Ikopit. Literally, I'm at Tracy Ikopit everywhere. On LinkedIn too.
One word for the Patriots, just sign out.
One word? Or just I can say a sentence.
Give them a message. I
Oh,
feel like you're giving
okay.
them so many messages.
Well, to the Gen Zs that might be watching, or even to the older generation, I think collaboration is really, really important. It's better for us to work together than to work against each other, drawing on each other's strengths so that we can achieve a middle class economy and really just do our best in pushing Uganda and making sure that Uganda is great and being the change that we wish to see.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.